clear for takeoff.
All aircraft, all others shall park on east ramp. Attention all aircraft. Hazardous weather information for Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and coastal waters is available on HIWAS, Flight Watch, or Flight Service frequencies. Advise on initial contact. You have information Delta. Wright Army Airfield, information Delta. Weather at 1456 Zulu. Automated observation. Wind 070 at 6. Visibility 10. Few clouds at 2,600. Ceiling 18,000. Overcast. Temperature 24. Dew point 17. Altimeter 3028. Pressure altitude -284. Density altitude +950. Runway 15 left in use. Expect visual approach. Runway 15 left. UAS operations in effect within right surface area. Restricted area 3005 Alpha through Echo active. Runway 6 left, passes unserviceable. Taxiway Bravo closed. Displaced FBO entrance limited to small aircraft. All others shall park on east ramp. Attention all aircraft. Hazardous weather information for Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and coastal waters is available on HIWAS, Flight Watch, or Flight Service frequencies. Advise on initial contact. You have information Delta. Wright Army Airfield, information Delta. Weather at 1456 Zulu. Automated observation. Wind 070 at 6. Visibility 10. Few clouds at 2,600. Ceiling 18,000. Overcast. Temperature 24. Dew point 17. Altimeter 3028. Pressure altitude -284. Density altitude +950. Runway 15 left in use. Expect visual approach. Runway 15 left. UAS operations in effect within right surface area. Restricted area 3005 Alpha through Echo active. Runway 6 left.
We got information Delta, altimeter 30.28, wind 07 at 6 knots.
The tower is open, so we'll talk to ground first. So we can put 21.7 in there. And I think they're using 1.5. I think the up to the minute wind was 130, so we'll plan on using 1.5. See how it goes.
028. Pressure altitude -284. Density altitude +950. Runway 15 left in use. Expect visual approach. Runway 15 left.
21.7.
UAS operations in effect within right surface area. Restricted area 3005 Alpha through Echo active. Runway.
And then you can put tower in standby 2625. So just leave that one in active and then just change your standby to tower.
2625.
Car 772, frequency change is approved.
And when you finish your checklist there, I think we can just turn, instead of trying to go past Shelley's airplane, I don't think we have quite enough room to do that. We'll plan on making a hard left.
Heading indicator.
Darn close. Close enough considering you're going to need to set it again anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Come out, okay, mixture 1/4 lean. Lean.
Right ground, Skyhawk A305 Bravo is on the ramp with the Delta. Ready for taxi, requesting close traffic.
Skyhawk A305 Bravo, wind is calm. We're having runway 15 left in use now. Would that work for you?
Yes, ma'am, sounds fine.
Roger, sir. Proceed taxiing via the cut-through, ramp area and Alpha Taxiway. Contact me holding short at the intersection.
I'll call you short of 15 left, Certified Bravo. And go and switch to tower. Don't bother setting out on the ground. We have no idea if we're in level flight right now.
I was just wondering if it was stuck. Oh, suction's low. There we go.
We have 0 air moving through the Venturi, so therefore we have 0 suction, which is why we're not going to sweat the details on that, because when you took the time to change it from 090 to 100, how'd that work out? We got to set it on the runway, because we don't have a vacuum pump, because we old school. And if you're taxiing with the tailwind like we are right now, you don't even.
Yeah, you got even less.
You don't even have prop blasts going through that thing. So, yep. But I still love them because they can't break. They just last forever.
I kind of figured you for that type of guy.
Oh yeah.
Old stuff that you can not have to worry about.
Yeah, because the vacuum pumps these days are dry vacuum pumps. They're sealed. They don't use engine oil. They use, like whatever, dry silicone or something like that. And boy, 300 or 400 hours, they're usually gone. And then you get to spend $200-300.
Over here. I haven't updated the checklist yet. Much crap going on. Alright, brakes are set. Flight control free and correct. Coming up to 1700 RPMs. Now we got some suction.
A little bit.
So, engine gauges, we are green and green. Amp meter, we are making a little bit. Mags. 1 and 2. And that's about 100 drop. 1, 2, not even 100 drop, about 25.
Maybe 50. Maybe not even 50.
And then 1 and 2. That was about 50 as well. Carb heat coming on. Still 75 drop. 75, 85 drop. Alright, then coming all the way back to idle. We'll idle. And come right back up to 1,000. We are trim and set.
And your vent is fully closed. You might want to open that up a little bit for yourself.
Oh, so that's how that works.
Yeah, just about right there.
Don't pull too much.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're good there. Close that down. And
Tower Skyhawk 05 Bravo is ready for the back taxi.
05 Bravo, back taxi approved. Advise when you're ready, sir.
Calling ready 15 left, 05 Bravo.
alright.
You can do that now. You can transponder altitude. And then right along with that is the nav lights on. I don't know if that's on your checklist or
Nav
not.
lights on.
And then it's just mixture rich and heading indicator once we are lined up on runway 15 left.
Alright.
And we'll back taxi to the beginning of the runway.
Back taxi to
15 left. So use your heading indicator to figure out where we're going, because we've got lots of choices, don't we?
yeah.
We have 4 choices. One is the correct one, and that is the correct one. Yes. So remember, your heading indicator will take you to the right place, but you have to be careful because this is not correct right now. It was actually fibbing. So there we go. So right there is 15. If we're on runway 15, we'll be facing 150 degrees. So the reciprocal is 33.
Taking off in a different direction. I was looking at the windsock and I was thinking we might back taxi back down there.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of bouncing between 6 and 15. It seems to generally be better for 15. We'll give it a shot. And if we have too much crosswind, we'll switch to 6, or at least we'll ask for that. Left is left traffic, and we don't have any restrictions on the upwind or crosswind. We just have to turn base perhaps a little bit sooner than we normally would, but pretty much same spot. Tower Skyhawk 8305 Bravo is ready, 15 left.
Skyhawk 05 Bravo, wind 090 at 4, runway 15 left, clear for takeoff, report right base.
Did you want left close traffic, ma'am?
Sorry about that. Left close traffic would be better. Left base then. Thank you.
Okay. We'll call the left base. 15 left. Clear to go. 05 Bravo. Okie dokie. We're good to go. Ready when you are.
All that good, and here we go.
Right rudder, bring that ball between the lines. We are crabbing into the wind, yes, but we still want to keep that ball between the lines.
Coming right. Overturned. Coming right at the tree line. And there's 1,000.
we can definitely anticipate some wind pushing us on the downwind towards the runway, and then of course the opposite thing on final approach. We'll probably be grabbing to the left a little bit, as needed of course. So if we're below 2,000 RPM, that means we've already put the carburetor heat on.
8305 Bravo, check wheels down, wind 0908, runway 15 left, clear for the option.
Clear for the option, 15 left, 05 Bravo. We're a little slow. Flaps coming in, and we're pitching for 80 miles an hour on the downwind, 75 base, 70 final. And the tree line right there is as good a spot as any for your base turn. Doesn't have to be exactly there, just keep in mind that 144, just shy of those small arms ranges, is your restricted area border. And we've got oodles of altitude to lose, so let's bring that throttle back to idle and get our last notch flaps in now. However, we're not going to dive bomb the runway. We're going to use the same speed we always use. 70, and we might even go just a hair faster because we do have a little bit of wind out here, so I would take 75, no problem.
Okay, on final. And too far. I let it push me.
Good, and as we come into the flare, some left aileron and some right rudder. So we're just about to touch down. We have to fix that cross correction. So we got to kick in that rudder to keep the nose pointing down the runway. All right, hold that back pressure in the yoke. Carb heat flaps, and away we go.
Carb heat. Flaps and pushing. 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000.
Level those ailerons. Lots of right rudder.
Yeah.
No matter which runway we use, we're going to have a little bit of crosswind today.
Yeah.
So, on this one, looks like we'll be needing to use a little bit of left aileron, a little bit of right rudder. Remember, ailerons always control drift. Rudder does what it always does, points the nose down the runway. But we don't have to worry about those things until we're in the flare. On final, we're simply using a little bit of aileron to hold the center line, crabbing into the wind as needed.
And 500 coming right.
Your other right.
Or left. Right, left.
Left, the other right.
Yes, my military. We're talking right rudder, right rudder, right rudder.
Yeah.
That's all I can think about is my right hand side at this point.
13 Papa Delta, right ground.
Speaking of the military's bass awkward way of doing things, my last student, I don't know if you talked to him, but he's active duty. He's a lieutenant colonel. And, he was like, yeah, the Army will give you a bowl of soup and then they'll give you a fork to eat it.
Yeah.
And I said, and then they'll wonder why you can't do it. And I said, yeah, I worked for county government. Their solution, if you can't eat the soup with a fork, is they'll hand you another fork because the first one must be broken.
Yeah.
13 Papa Delta, taxi via the cut-through, ramp area up Alpha Taxiway. Contact me holding short of the 15 left intersection.
So let that nose down. And if the nose is up on its own, you got to push it down some. So 2200 RPM, and just flying the airplane with the yoke to hold that altitude at 1,000 feet. So we ballooned up about 200 on the last downwind, and that's one of the reasons why we got a little bit high. So the two things you're focused on now is maintaining your 1,000 feet and maintaining your distance from the runway, tracking parallel to it. This is where you'd get an idea of crosswind. If you notice yourself getting pushed closer to the runway, then that means we've got some wind pushing us in that direction. Touchdown zone markers, carburetor heat coming on, power 1500, slowing down to 80 miles an hour, and a notch of flaps in the wide arc. And in a perfect world, we'd be looking for that 45-degree angle to turn base. This tree line is pretty close to that.
Second notch in. And turning base.
13 Papa Delta, just for planning purposes, will you be departing from the intersection?
Over slow. Let that nose down. We want a minimum of 75 here.
13 Papa Delta, good copy. You're going to require a run-up?
And bring that power to idle, because we got the runway
Not a problem
made.
at all. We have a Cessna in the traffic pattern, runway 15 left at this time.
Tower 05 Bravo is base to final 15 left.
05 Bravo, check wheels down, wind 0705, runway 15 left, clear for the option.
Clear for the option 15 left, 05 Bravo.
And coming final. Again. Yeah. So hard to judge.
So we've got that wind pushing us on the base leg.
Yep.
So just have to turn a little sooner than you normally would to compensate for that little bit of a push. It's not a heck of a lot, but it's something. Looking at the speed, looking at the runway, looking at the speed, looking at the runway, maintaining that nose down attitude more important than anything. Not doing anything special on the controls until we're in the flare, and only then as needed.
Nice and easy, nice and easy.
Eyeballs down the runway, just keep on pulling, keep on pulling.
Oh!
Boy, oh boy. Gotta bring that yoke back.
Yeah. Alright.
Okay, here we go.
Get out of the way, birds.
600.
So don't let your eyes come in front of the plane, right in front of the cowling. You gotta keep them locked all the way down the runway. Gotta get that right, or you're incorrectly using the controls.
Yeah.
You're twisting the ailerons to the right, which make life worse. You're creating adverse yaw, which twists the nose even further to the left. So when you use the incorrect control, it's not just wrong, it makes it harder. Right, Tower, RV-13 Papa Delta, holding short 15 left for departure.
RV-13 Papa Delta, hold momentarily for release.
13 Papa Delta.
So what precisely happened there? 'Cause
We got way too low to the ground, we stopped pulling on the yoke,
Yeah.
and we hit flat. So the most likely cause for that was that you let your eyeballs shift from looking all the way down the runway to looking right in front of the engine cowling.
Okay.
Generally speaking,
13 Papa Delta,
when people flare too late or not enough, it's because they're not looking all the way down the runway. They're looking right in front of the plane.
At the intersection of
If you're looking right in front of the plane, it's almost impossible to know how close to the ground you are.
Downwind.
Whereas, if you keep your eyeballs locked all the way down the runway, it's much easier to perceive those slight changes in elevation. So right now we're flying in closer to the runway. If we turn 10, maybe as little as 10, maybe 20 degrees to the right, it'll get our track parallel to the runway to compensate for that wind.
200 Papa Delta, contact departure.
And that'll help you on the base leg as well, where we're going to be pushed a little bit.
Alright.
Carburetor heat, then power, then flaps.
First notch in.
Alright, shooting for 80 here, 75 base, 70 final, plus a little bit perhaps because of the wind. So remember, these are descending turns, the nose is going to be below the horizon, just a question of how far below the horizon will it be. Tower 05 Bravo, left base, 15 left.
05 Bravo, check wheels down, wind 080 at 9, runway 15 left, clear for the option.
Clear for the option, 15 left, 05 Bravo.
Okay. And fast marching flaps.
And runway's made, power back to idle. I'm dividing our attention between looking at the airspeed and looking at the runway. Starting that turn now. And then feathering it as needed. If you started a little early, a little bit out. Need to steepen a little bit, you can steepen a little bit. Keeping the nose down through it all to maintain that speed and more importantly, that general nose down attitude. Making small corrections on the ailerons to hold the center line. And remember, if you do make an aileron correction, if you put a left correction in, don't bring it back to the right, just bring it back to neutral. Always bringing the ailerons back to neutral instead of bringing them all the way to the other side. If you do, make a correction. Looking good right now, right on that center line. And as we transition right here, looking all the way down the runway, don't move those eyeballs away from the end of the runway. Keep on pulling, keep on pulling, keep on pulling, keep on pulling. So we were late on that pull, and that, boy, when I take my hands off the yoke, it springs forward. It shouldn't. It should be here. And this is where it should be until we are on that touch and go all the way back.
So I'm not pulling back enough.
Yep, more pull, more pull. There's always more. If you think you've pulled it all the way, I got news for you. You haven't. Here we go. There's always more yoke left. There we go, leading the touch and go with the throttle, and then the yoke comes barely forward to that takeoff position, keeping those ailerons neutral. They don't do crap for us on the ground. Hold those suckers neutral, put that right rudder in there. You gotta hold it in there, even after rotation, holding that sucker in there, keeping that ball between the lines. There we go, immediately pitching forward after liftoff to get to that climb speed of 70. When we come into that flare, your choices are pulling on the yoke or not pulling on the yoke, but never pushing on the yoke. So once you get that yoke pulled back, it's never going to go forward from that position. The only exception to that would be is if you actually balloon up when you start that flare at 10 feet, maybe you balloon back up a few feet, then we might come easy forward on the yoke to reestablish the flare. But if we're below 10 feet, we are not pushing forward on that yoke.
So at that point it becomes hard landing or nothing.
Well, if we get the airplane too slow and we're still too high off the ground, we're going to start nudging in some power.
Yeah.
Power controls altitude, which is another way of saying power controls rate of descent. So if that happens, adding the power is the backup plan so that we don't drop the airplane in. But we are not having that problem at all. We aren't flaring enough. We're getting too close to the ground with the aircraft still in a descending attitude. The whole point of that flare is to transition from nose down to nose up. So you got to keep those eyeballs locked down the opposite end of the runway so you can perceive your elevation above the runway. And as the airplane descends, we keep pulling on that yoke. You will not be able to perceive that descent unless we're looking down the runway. Okay, so your engine's going to ice up. Push that throttle to 2,000. We do not pull that throttle below 2,000 without using the carb heat, and we don't need that. We need to do this. We're at 1,400 feet. We should be at 1,000, and we're going 80 miles an hour. We can go to 140 miles an hour right now. So look, this is all we had to do. Fly the plane. There, now we're at 1,000 feet. And you can leave the throttle exactly where it is. Just keep that nose in that level flight attitude. So we're struggling with pitch control today. Fly the plane. Right there. Don't let it fly you, because it's been flying you so far. Fly it. We're below 2,000 RPM, and that's okay. But bring it down to 15. We don't want to kind of randomly pick something. Purposeful. Bring it down to 15. That's our baseline. Now, once we do that, you can do whatever you want, but we got to establish that baseline first. If we have something other than 1,500 RPM, it's because we've said to ourselves we are too high or too low. We don't know that yet, so we have 1,500. We're way slow. We should be going 80 miles an hour right now. Pitch controls speed. You can make this airplane go any speed you want in 3 seconds. Push or pull on that yoke as needed, and it will happen. Tower 05 Bravo, left base 15 left.
05 Bravo, check wheels down, wind 0606, runway 15 left, clear for the option.
Clear for the option, 15 left, 05 Bravo. We don't want to chase the needle, not suggesting that, but I am suggesting if you put the nose on one particular spot on the horizon, you will get a speed, and you get to pick exactly what that speed is. Two completely independent things, pitch for speed, power for altitude. Right now they're both looking good.
Oh, baby.
And I don't care if that speed picks up a little bit. I can handle that. What I don't want is it getting too slow. Looking good. We're still looking right in front of the nose, but that's going to change when we get to 10 feet. We're not quite there yet. We're still coming down. Now we're there. We're looking all the way down that runway. Holding what we got, ready to pull. And we're pulling, we're pulling, we're pulling. We're slow on that stuff, man. Super slow, and every time I let go of the yoke, it comes forward.
Yeah.
Okay? This is where it is.
Yeah.
Carb heat, flaps, and away we go. There's no way for me to know where your eyeballs are looking, but if I was a guessing man, a betting man, I'm saying they're not looking all the way down the runway. Most of the time when people make a mistake on that, they start looking down the runway and then they bring the eyeballs right back in front of the plane. Because you're scared you're going to want the ground and you've convinced yourself that's the secret to not hitting it, when in fact, the opposite is true. If you bring those eyeballs back and look right in front of the cowling, you're going to hit the ground because you can't tell how high above it you are. If you keep the eyeballs locked at the other end of the runway, you will see that ground's coming and you will be able to react by pulling on the yoke and transitioning to that nose high attitude. But only you know where those eyeballs are looking. So if that's what you're doing, that's what you're working on. Keeping those eyeballs locked all the way down the runway. Generally speaking, if people are flaring late, or not at all, or not enough,
This is information Echo now.
they're looking right in front of the plane. And if they're flaring too early, or too much, they're looking all the way down the runway too soon. They're not quite to their flaring height yet. The most difficult part is figuring out where to start the flare. And you know, I call it 10 feet, but it might not be exactly 10 feet. It might be 8 feet, it might be 12 feet. It's something in that neck of the woods. That's the hardest part, is figuring out when to start that process. But you're doing that. You're starting your flare at about the right time. You're just not following through with it. And the overall trend today is we're pretty sloppy with speeds and altitudes today. And the solution for that is fly the plane. When we get to 1,000 feet, I would like to stay at 1,000 feet on this one. Push or pull on that yoke as needed and keep this thing at 1,000 feet. It's as simple as that. When we get into those latter stages of the pattern and we're flying base and final, we're shooting for particular speeds. Now remember, right here it's nose down first. Speed building, then power coming back, so we don't try to do a power off stall. Always in that order.
Alright, coming right.
So right here, the name of the game is just maintaining an altitude. We don't care what the airspeed is. We'll worry about that here in 30 seconds. As we transition onto the base and the final legs, then we're concerned about airspeeds, but we're going to use that pitch control just to nail those speeds, whatever it is we're looking for. So again, right here, the two things we're interested in is keeping 1,000 feet and keeping the same distance from the runway, which might mean the nose is pointing over there or pointing over there. As long as the airplane is tracking parallel to the runway, that's all we care about. And we could care less what our speed is until we get to beam those touchdown zone markers, and then we start doing our stuff. So here we are, carb heat first, 1,500 RPM. We're slowing down to 80 miles an hour, and as we do that, flaps coming in 10 degrees. But now, from here on out, we do care about the airspeed. 80 here, 75 base, 70 on final.
First notch.
And we're keeping that nose down. It's going to be below the horizon. The question is, how far below the horizon will it be?
There's second
05
notch.
Bravo, check wheels down, wind 1603, runway 15 left, clear for the option.
Clear for the option, 15 left, 05 Bravo.
Alright, coming right.
So watch that airspeed, keep that nose down.
Last notch. Nose down.
Starting to get slow, let that nose come down. So it's got to be down through this turn.
Nose down. Oh,
Power's going to get you to that runway. Pitch is going to keep that speed where we need it to be. If that runway's moving up the windshield, we're adding power. If the runway's moving down the windshield, we're taking away power, but we're keeping that nose down, or that speed's going to bleed right off. So we're down to 65, and 70 is our minimum, so we are pushing that nose down. And if that means we don't make it to the runway, then we add power to fix that. So we're at 60 miles an hour. We should be at 70. We're pushing that nose down to get 70. There we go, because we've got to have that energy coming into the flare.
okay, coming to idle. This is ugly.
Now we're doing that flare. We're looking all the way down that runway. Hold what you got, being ready to pull. Hold what you got. Here comes the pull. Here comes the pull.
I say we call it at that. I feel like I'm getting worse here.
Okay. Keep that yoke all the way back. Tower 05 Bravo will be a full stop and taxi into the ramp.
05 Bravo, roger sir, whenever you're ready you can back taxi down Alpha ramp area and to the cut through.
Park with you, 05 Bravo, thanks. Alright, we'll flip it around and hit Alpha.
Man, I feel like I've been just flew the airplane for the first time.
It was a rough one today, Lance. It was a rough one. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You're better off hearing the truth. And yeah, you're struggling today with a lot of the pitch. So when we were using pitch to control altitude, that was a bit of a struggle. We were using pitch to control the airspeed. That was a little bit of a struggle. And coming into the flare, you were flaring at the right time. So a lot of people have trouble flaring at the right time. They started too late or they started too soon. You're pretty much on it. And it's not going to be exactly the same every time. Every landing is different. But that wasn't an issue. The issue came after that, following through with that pull. So, again, not to beat a dead horse, but the mistake most people make is as they come into the flare, they stop looking all the way down there and they start looking right in front of the engine cowling. So they just let those eyeballs trickle back in. Now, I don't know that's what you were doing, but I would suspect that's what maybe you were doing.
I think I'm trying to, and I'll know more when I watch the video, because I'll be able to see the shift in my head
Okay.
on what I'm doing.
600 feet.
So again, if that is the case, it becomes very difficult to do the appropriate thing on the yoke. And the appropriate thing on the yoke is going to be different every single time because every landing is different. None of this is rote learning. There's dozens of variables that come into play every time we come in. But if the airplane is descending, then we are pulling on the yoke. Now here's something that a lot of people do incorrectly.
100 feet remaining.
They're perceiving something incorrectly, and so they react incorrectly. So
Approaching runway 1.
we come down, we get into the flare, we start pitching the nose up. If you are keeping your eyes, let's say that you were looking on a certain spot on the windshield, okay? So not what's outside of the windshield, just literally a spot on the windshield. As we flare the airplane, the windshield's moving up, and so your eyeballs are going up. Your brain says, oh, we're climbing now. I should stop pulling on the yoke. We're not climbing. So, instead of doing that, like if I was coming into land right now, I'm looking at the that rusty brown roof on that little shorter shed in the middle.
Yeah.
And if I flare the airplane, my nose is coming up closer to it, but I'm still looking at the same spot. Understand? Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. So because I'm still looking at the same spot, the nose is coming up to meet that spot. That's allowing me to see that, oh, actually I'm not climbing. I'm increasing my pitch angle. I'm increasing my angle of attack. I'm pulling on the yoke, but the airplane isn't climbing. The airplane, as a matter of fact, is still coming down.
Yeah, you're maintaining the same point of aim.
Exactly. So that tends to be the problem. If you are flaring at the correct spot when you transition out of the descent, if you're flaring at the correct time or the correct spot, however you want to say it, but then you're not following through, it's probably because the eyeballs aren't doing the correct thing. Either they're coming back in and looking right in front of the cowling, or they're moving around, or they're locked at a certain spot, on the windshield and following the windshield.
If I had to guess, I'm not picking a spot and holding that same spot. I'm looking at different spots because I'm looking down. I can tell you I'm looking down.
Down the runway, you mean?
I'm looking down the runway, but I'm not picking a spot.
Okay. Now here's
just like the point of aim.
Yeah. Now
So maintain that same point of aim.
Here's the challenge with that.
Yeah, because it's all green.
What exactly are you looking at? Because it's a fairly long runway, and there's not a rusty brown roof at the end of it. So that's the hard part. You got to find something down there that you can look at. Now that spot you're looking at might very well be a spot on the runway, because that might be the only thing that you can actually see. You don't want to look all the way out into infinity, okay? Because if you're looking out at, like, if we were in the Mojave Desert and it was literally just as flat as a freaking 12-mile wide pancake, that's not going to work out very well, because you'd be trying to focus on infinity out there, and that's going to lead to problems as well. So the challenge is finding that spot that you are looking at, but as long as that spot is a couple of thousand feet down the runway, you're good. If that spot's right in front of the airplane, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, so what I was trying to do is maintain a correct perspective looking down the runway where everything kind of, the horizon maintained the same and everything, but it wasn't happening for me. And I think because I was shifting from looking up at the trees and down at the end of the runway and in between.
Moving the eyeballs around is not going to work
rather than focus on, okay, I'm going to focus on the end of the runway right there, and that's going to be my point of aim.
Yep.
So
you've got food for thought there. You've got things to consider. Hopefully your video will help you determine
well, it will,
course of action.
Because I will, two things. One, I'll review the video, but the second thing is
and you can keep rolling until the main wheels are on the concrete.
I can rehearse it some more. That's one thing about the simulator, is I can rehearse it. Okay, so
And it's probably not on your checklist, but we can turn the nav lights off as well.
Okay, nav lights off. Let's see. Standby. Let's see. Where am I at on this? Taxi cleanup. I'm well past that. That's terrible. Didn't follow the checklist at all. 1,000 RPMs. Okay. Avionics master.
Airplane 1 lands nothing today, huh? Oh my god. We have those.